I'd like to call this meeting of the Oconee County Planning Commission to order. This is Monday, December 5th, 5:02 p.m. Our first order of business is invocation. Mr. Golden, if you would, please.
Heavenly Father, during this special season where we put our attention to hope, joy, peace, and love, as we celebrate, help us to learn and grow. Help us to be our best selves. Help us during this meeting to be open-minded, honest, and decisive. And Lord, we thank you for Alex Vassy and for his 6 years of service to the people of District 3 on the Planning Commission. Amen.
Amen. Pat.
Please pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you have before you the minutes of our last meeting, November 21st. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is any corrections?
Yeah, I'd like to put in the information about the discussion we had last week about the electric vehicles and the batteries, and the email I submitted from the fire chief about the number of visits he had. That one establishment.
The first two things.
That's a motion to amend the minutes to
Yes,
include
yes, sir.
electric vehicles
And
discussion.
the emails that I submitted.
And emails.
Yeah,
We need a second. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to amend the minutes?
All right.
Unanimous?
Okay, now, we have a motion on the table to approve minutes as amended. Any other corrections? All those in favor?
All right.
All right. We have public comment for non-agenda items. Mr. Chris?
Want me to start? Should I go up?
Yes, if you would, please.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank you guys for the last meeting, for listening to me. I really appreciate that. This is a very sensitive situation with people, and I'm glad people are listening. I sent you this document. I had James send it to you guys. And the reason is because I was kind of surprised that after the meeting, the misinformation started very quick, within 24 hours. I talked about a two-step process. The first step is a simple analysis so we can understand from professional consultants what type of situation we're facing. And that's very important that we understand that. And we're not advocating going beyond that until we've communicated to everybody in the community what it means. Because right now, we know we have a lot of risk, a lot. We just don't know how much. We also don't know what risk we have that we don't even know about. And that's what these professional, objective consultants will do. They know that stuff, and that's really important. Because right now, there's so much information flying around, I don't know what to believe. I do know that these articles are huge red flags, and they need to be investigated before we start too far in the future, starting to pour cement, doing things like that, building things, overloading infrastructure, because at that point, the dollars will be huge, beyond anything you can imagine. There seemed to be a question that came from suspended Councilman Durham about the growth. My entire decades of career, I was measured on risk. I mean, if I couldn't manage risk, the things that were just around the corner, or question those things, I wouldn't have a job. And that's in my consulting business, that's what I do. It's not just the growth. Greenville is a good example of that. And I'll give you an example of Woodruff Road. My wife is from Greenville. The day I got married, I was sitting with my father-in-law and all of his friends having breakfast. I was nervous, but I could listen. It didn't make a lot of sense. I could care because I was moving. Those guys were talking about people taking their land because Woodruff Road was already under discussion. I didn't care, it didn't impact me. Well, he had 10 acres off of Woodruff Road. Now, it's all residential with density that you wouldn't believe. This Woodruff Road issue that they're facing right now with this $121 million, it's the first phase. They're not going to be done until 2029. They didn't have that growth. They had an idea that if they started building things that people would come, but they didn't know about that. If they'd have thought about it, they could have planned around it. They could have had a master plan and say, okay, we think it's going to happen here and it's going to happen there. That's managing the risk. Because if they would have done that, they never would have had the issues now, okay? I already talked about the assessment. It's really, really important that people understand. And I'm going to say it again because when I leave, it'll start traveling on social media and it'll be distorted. And I want everybody to understand I'm only talking about one step right now, the analysis. And that analysis will cost several $1,000s by professionals, but literally can save us millions of dollars in the community. And then there's one other thing I want you to be aware of, a different situation. My grandparents on both sides lost their homes during the Depression, both of them. And I never knew it until I was in college. And my dad and my mom, my dad worked his whole life, they built a home, and my dad was getting older. He was a surgeon. Well, he started having hours on Saturdays. I didn't think about it. I thought, well, he's got a lot of work. That wasn't it. My dad told me when I was working, I said, why did you start working again? You were slowing down. He said, because nobody is ever going to take my house. You're talking about things like this, with these types of special assessments and emergencies, we got to pay for it. These people that are most vulnerable in our community, I won't. God bless me, I can afford it. But you're going to have people that will literally lose their homes. And the people talking about property rights and things like that, they don't have any data. They do not have anything other than what they've been talking about. And that is a huge, I'm not criticizing, it's worked well for them. But it is a huge issue and people believe it until it happens. And after that, it's too late. A lot of people, are without homes. So I want to pass you guys one last thing, and then I want to talk about it. It's just a little print off I did about Woodruff Road that you can read, and then some of the stuff that we have to be cognizant to, since at the end of the day, I told you guys that you were the lightning rods. The lightning rods without any power. Can you share with her? I want to make sure we get that. Okay, so the Woodruff Road, I talked to you about that, about my father-in-law. Well, he was wrong, but they got what they wanted. They kept their land, but, lost it eventually. So this is what happened within 24 hours if you go to page 2. It's an example of what I'm talking about. I'm 70 years old, okay? I never let people bully me when I was working. I care about this community. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in a town smaller than Seneca. But when you look at this comment, and you look at, it was posted approximately 24 hours after I presented on November 21st, look at the bottom, that incitement. That's incitement to violence. If people don't believe that with what they're seeing today, they're not paying attention. And then you can go down below, and I know Mr. Nixon and I disagree. I don't think there's anybody in here that's ever gotten under a desk during the Cuban Missile Crisis but me. My father was in the Navy. He got shot down. He survived. And I got people calling me a Marxist. I mean, it doesn't bother me. It's just crazy. Think about that. A Marxist favors communism and socialism over capitalism. I worked for GE for 30 years. If anybody thinks I still don't fight for pennies on the floor, they're crazy. And then I have a consulting business. I'm a capitalist. I just believe differently on certain things that are important. So when you go down through here, you guys are taking a hit already. You're progressives. That's what he's saying. Because you're listening to me and I have a concern, you're progressives. So you might as well just face it. Now, you look at go to the second page. And you'll see there, or push zoning, they are our enemy. That's a big deal, man. That is a huge deal. Does it scare me? You know what, hell, like I said, I'm old enough now. But the thing is, that's wrong, because there are a lot of people in this community that get intimidated with that rhetoric. People that won't come in and talk to you because they've been intimidated, okay? So, go to the last page. And what it was is, James is a good planner. I looked at him on LinkedIn. But, hey, what we're dealing with now is totally different. You know, that's why you need these guys that have been around the country and around the world. When they come in, they will tell you things that we're not even thinking about. They've seen the pitfalls, they've seen the good companies or the good counties that have been able to solve the issues. But right now, this is not invented here syndrome that we're dealing with. If you didn't live here or you didn't know about it at that point, it doesn't matter. So just please listen to that. I hope we, like I said, I will volunteer to help with the consultants, but I hope we do that rather than just fold, okay? Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, sir. Commission member comments.
I've got. Again, I covered this in our prayer. I want to make sure my friend down here knows how much we appreciate his service for 6 years. And I look up to you because of the way you perform professionally. And just know that I'm going to try to be in track with what I've seen you do in the past. So I appreciate you being a mentor to me through my first 2 years here.
Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to talk about is the junkyards, okay? So when we first started talking about junkyards, I was just pretty new to the commission, and so I did a lot of listening and I tried to follow the leadership. We decided to have a task force, and I was involved in that. And then after the task force, I think the commission decided that we would just talk about commercial junkyards. And so ever since then, I have not been making any claims about anybody's personal property or anything like that. I have been involved in just thinking and listening, and honestly, when I talk to people I've just met at different public occasions and such, I'll occasionally bring this up about commercial junkyards in Oconee County. I just don't think there's a huge fire under most people that they want to do something about junkyards. I personally believe that whatever we send forward is most likely not going to make it past first reading at the council. That's why I've been a proponent of and taking what we've got and trying to move it forward, because that way we can hear what the council has to say about it. There's a lot that can be done with the verbiage of and trying to make a good law if that's the way they want to go. But I personally want to let you know I'm tired of talking about junkyards, because what we've got, what we've already talked about for a long time, what we've got is something we can send forward. And that's all we need. So, if I've hurt anybody's feelings publicly or anything like that, I want to say I apologize. I want to try to have a new beginning. And I think that this county, and especially the people of District 5, they haven't been calling me and saying, please keep working on trying to do something about junkyards. I think this commission's powerless. If we send it forward to the county council and they say, yeah, this is something we really think we ought to work on, I'm all in for trying to work, and I'll be honest, I think I've put a lot of hours in this. But I don't see us needing to spend a whole lot of more hours on it. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir, go ahead, Dave, you got it?
I'll talk about, I guess, during commercial junk storage, but I'm trying to figure out how the definition in this attachment changed back to commercial junk shall mean items for resale or more than 5 junk vehicles stored on a tract of land. How did it get changed back to that? This is not what we have edited this thing to be.
This is back to the first thing. I've already had that concern myself. That was put back in there.
I've got the edited version if we need it. It's not this one.
What did your definition say?
Hold on, I'll tell you.
Just to refresh everyone's memory.
Changed back to that, the other one too. I'll have to go back 2 meetings. I don't have the meeting notice far enough back to get to the correct definition. I know we changed that though.
No, you're right.
Did we not take that out completely?
did.
That's what I thought we did. Thought we took it out completely.
Because that got a little bit too close to individual property rights. Had nothing to do with the commercial business. All right, while he's looking that up, let's move to section 5 of this.
Well, wait a minute.
Are we still in comments?
Comments.
I'm on public comment.
Oh, is in it? Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to say, I thank the citizens for showing up and speaking and making us aware of things, because misinformation, it can get rampant quickly. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that support our agendas as far as subdivision developments or land use policies are very silent. They don't like to get out and speak in front of people. But I do see a lot of those folks. I do talk to a lot of people about land use development issues and things like that. But they're just not going to get up here and speak. We do have a few people in the community that really use the public platforms to their advantage and really get a huge step up on us by blowing out some information out there that's not correct. With that being said, we're trying to get information out there. I'm hosting a meeting tomorrow night with the Oconee County Cattlemen's Association, which is our annual meeting, and James is going to be the speaker there, and we got another commissioner that's going to attend. My objective there is to inform people about citizen-initiated zoning. Because at this time, that appears, in my view, the only way we're going to get moving on land use issues. I don't think council has any flavor of having any more development issues that will hinder growth. The affordable housing thing has just got blown out of the water. That's not something that we're going to impact greatly. It may have a small impact, but the market drives housing prices, not what we do or say. The market drives housing prices. Anyway, with that being said, I do want to say that there is an effort to get the public informed. I have almost 100 people already committed to this meeting, and I hope that it goes well. I think James will do a good job, and I hope that we can get the ball rolling on citizen-initiated zoning. Again, that is citizen-initiated, that's from the ground up, not top down. And I'll tell you, I got to be careful about how many people. I don't want 400 people to show up.
You can't have more than
No more, another commissioner can't show up anyway. But I do want to say that the public's being heard, and I'm just a mouthpiece for the public, and I'm going to stand firm that we need development, development proposals that's going to work. And Woodruff Road
Mr. Ruin brought that up. Highway 59 is gonna be our Woodruff Road if they get sewer down that road. Because that's a direct route to 85, direct route to Atlanta. Highway 59 will be our Woodruff Road in 20 years. And, out to the Seneca city limits, we don't have any control of that. Seneca will take care of that on their own, but we really need to be aware of that. Thank you.
Just a little extra with you, everyone needs to keep, informed for this agricultural task force. They're coming out with some recommendations to help protect some agricultural land, different things. Should be announced by the end of the month, hopefully, if everything works like we've got planned. So, I mean, hopefully that'll help protect some of this agricultural land that is going away very rapidly. So, this is something the council hopefully can get behind, and it'll be all citizen-initiated things. It won't be government, saying you gotta do this and this. It would be something to the tune of a voluntary agricultural district, and with certain protections in that district.
Okay, I'm gonna tread very lightly there. I appreciate council's effort to bring that to light, but we have an agricultural committee that, one of the representatives here tonight, that should have, and those recommendations have come from them for a year or 2 years, and they have not been heard. Now, why council on their own decides to bring up land use protection, when we have an agricultural committee that could have done that for them and had those questions and those things already taken care of before it got there.
Well, we have members of the Ag Advisory Board on there, on this task force, amongst other members. So, they know, they're fully aware of what's going on with this task force, so that's just a thing. And on another note, with the junkyard ordinance,
I got a comment.
go ahead, I'll let you, and then I'll.
All right. Two things. I'm not on Facebook, so when I hear about misinformation and comments, I find it hurtful. And so I would just ask that everybody in the commission be mindful that we are one body here, and our mission is to do what's good for the county. And I consider us an apolitical body, so I think politics plays a part. I would like to think that this is a body where ideas can be free-flowing without being impugned or anything afterwards. Just healthy debates are good, hearing from different perspectives are great, and so I welcome all different ideas. So I would just encourage anybody who's on Facebook to be careful about the integrity of the commission. Secondly, there is one checkpoint in the comp plan that's due by 2022, so we're getting in under the wire, and it's to identify and explore ways to protect quality of lesser-known waterways and hidden gems such as the Little River in Salem. And this was important because the Newry Mill, as you know, is being rehabbed, and worried about maybe construction interfering or polluting the river or whatever, but I was in conversation with Dale Wild, who's with Folks, and they have an adopt a stream, and it's been tested. It was in 2020 and in August of 21, and all looks good for the waterway there. So, well done.
Okay, go back. Just a thing on the junkyard ordinance. We have been working on it for several years. Seemed like no one wanted to do anything. We're finally one of the only commissions that has actually done something with it. I feel that if we send something to council that is not complete, one of two things happen. It gets voted down at first reading, or it gets sent back to us and we start over again. I'd like to send something that is complete, that we all agree on, or at least most of us, and get it worked out to where the council doesn't have to send it back to us. The one we're working on, it still has some bugs in it that we need to work out. We need to make sure that it addresses commercial junkyards only, nothing more. And just to my point, until we do that, we don't need to be sending pieces of stuff to council and getting approval on one little piece now, and then 2 months down the road, get another little piece done. It just takes forever to get anything done that way. Just send it all at one time. And again, like you said, Mr. Gallen, let them read it. If they like it, then if they gotta nitpick it around and want us to change something, they can send it back at that point. But we've sent them a complete document, not just parts of documents, and it's all one thing. To me, it's a better way of doing things rather than just trying to send little things, like one little sentence now and one little sentence tomorrow and one next week, do it all at one time. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. So, anyone else?
I'll comment real quick then. Because it's come up here with the commercial junkyards, I think it applies to anything that this board does. Yes, I think we should get the pulse of council as to whether they want us to start working on something, but I think we did that with regard to junkyards sometime back when. I don't think that we need to develop a reputation here of sending piecemeal to council. I think that we have the responsibility of trying to create a document that we feel is ready to go and that we're willing to stand up for when it does come to council. Because I think otherwise we're wasting council's time and we're going to get a reputation for doing so. So to our best ability, I think that we need to finish this commercial junkyards, because I agree with Gary, it's sitting there. I'd really like to get it handled and done, but I do want to make it done to the point where we can all put our stamp on it and say we think that this is the right document to send.
Do you mind if I speak?
Go ahead.
I just want, there's been a couple of things brought up about junkyards. I just want to respond to those because we decided that it'd be good to get the Pickens County ordinance and look at it, and that's what we're doing. And I remember early on, we had some members on our commission saying, hey, it's good enough for Pickens, can it just be good enough for us? And I was one of those that said, I think we need to look at it closer. And we have looked at it closer. And so when someone says piecemeal or a sentence at a time, I can't say that that's what I'm in favor of. No, I'm in favor of the document that we've got. And let's finish this up and let's move it forward.
Anyone else? I got one more thing. I'd like to echo the sentiment toward Alex. It's been a pleasure working with you this time. You've done a great job. And just keep up the good work and keep those kids in that travel ball and rec ball and all. You're doing a great job. I've been keeping up with them this whole time too. So.
Thank you.
All right, let's move right along to staff comment.
Just a reminder, some of you got an email from Jennifer Adams about redoing your sheet for her for updating information. There's a couple of folks that have information that's incorrect, so just need to get those sent back to her if you got one. If you didn't, you're good, so.
Okay. All right, I will now open the floor up for discussion regarding development of a commercial junkyard ordinance. We have no public comment. We have no public comment on that item, so I'm going to open it up to the commission. Do we have the actual ordinance that we were working on? Because like this page 1 of 4 here, we have corrected or changed or did things to this page, and this is an old one.
So I did go back and double check the minutes from October 3. The commercial junk definition was originally moved to be stricken. That motion failed. It was then moved to change 5 to 10. That motion failed. It was then moved to change or to and that motion did pass. So that was the correction that needed to be made there that was, missed.
So
Under
what,
commercial.
read the sentence to me, what is it?
Excuse me?
Can you read the sentence with the,
Yeah, commercial junk shall mean items for sale and more than 5 junk vehicles stored on a tract of land.
is that the final?
I thought we changed the definition of a junkyard totally to the definition that we had come up with.
So that's
Oh, that
commercial
was-
junk. The junk and the junkyards do follow below, and those are the definitions as adopted from your working document.
Can you read one more time what failed?
What failed?
You said that several things were proposed and failed.
The original, so it was not the original motion. There was an original motion by Ms. Spicer. Actually, I'll just put this up if you guys like. So the original motion for Ms. Spicer was to adopt the Pickens ordinance with these 3 changes. Mr. Nix made the motion to strike the definition under 10.7.3, which was the resale of 5, or items for sale and the 5 junked vehicles. That motion failed. The next motion was to change from 5 cars to 10 cars. That motion also failed. The third attempt was to change the or to and that motion did pass.
The or to
Resale.
and. Resale and, man?
Yeah.
So it-
Resale and more than. Oh, got it, okay. Huh. Okay, good thing for minutes.
I don't see commercial junk used in the document anywhere.
Other
Other
the
than-
definition.
Commercial, yeah. So,
This right here.
yeah, but it's just junkyard.
So go on.
Well, we did strike the section on non-commercial junkyards, so, and that's not in here, so I'm good with that part of it. I think pretty much every commercial junkyard is gonna meet the definition of commercial junk anyway, so. Since it's an and.
What else?
We had in the last meeting talked about having asked you to come back and see if there's some wording for 6A, 6B that could be combined. Did that? I'm looking at that.
That should be after the working, yeah, so that's this right here. It did not get labeled, I apologize for that, but after page 404, that should be your next page. Prior to that chart with all of the electric vehicle data.
It does seem to be a lot more understandable than what.
I don't know if I'm in total agreement with this. I mean, I understand it's an application, but it's still, it's very closely related to getting a license. There's no fee other than unless the council sets one to do the permit, but it's still real close to having to get a license to run a junkyard, a business license. We don't require that for any other, is there any other company that we have in this county, any other business, that they have to get a application permit to start their business?
So any cell tower in the county goes through a more extensive,
Cell tower doesn't sell a thing except airways. I'm talking about
so every commercial business has a building permit.
my daughter started a business, she never come to the
If they
county
build anything,
and
they-
filled out an application
Okay.
to have her business. This is just a backwards way of requiring a junkyard to have a business license, in my opinion.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I, again, agree with your statement about the business license stuff. As far as reading this and I'm not an attorney, so I don't know if this passes muster or not, but I do like the idea of an initial site plan, because everybody has to have an initial site plan. If on your personal property, if you're about to build a house, you have to provide an initial site plan. And you have to go through all the appropriate permitting, and that's just to build a house, or that's to put up a garage. We're talking about a junkyard. There's got to be some type of policing mechanism. If somebody comes in and says, I want to build a junkyard in Oconee County, there's got to be somebody that says, okay, follow these steps, and we're going to come out and look to make sure you followed those steps. And I think that having an initial site plan and having all the appropriate permits and showing is no different than somebody has to do to, again, build a garage on their own property.
Also, remember, section 5, they've got 180 days, the existing junkyards, to come up with compliance to section 5. So they're gonna have to go through and get this permit as well, correct? If they don't come into compliance with section 5, then they don't get the permit.
I thought we did something with that existing, that it was just expansions of. Did we not?
Doesn't say that.
When y'all use, excuse me,
Go ahead.
when y'all use the word permit or license and then expect that it's the same thing as an application, I disagree.
But I definitely agree with Mr. Pearson that we should not require something of a business that's not required of all other businesses. But I do think we have to have some kind of inspection mechanism to take place initially.
But doesn't the state require certain things that anybody operating a junkyard has to do before they can start operating that junkyard?
And that's why we left that, all the state requirements in there. Yeah, NCDOT and all others.
But does the state require any type of application, permit, licensing, or whatever for a junkyard?
There is, so they're monitored, but, I don't know another mechanism to enforce any of the provisions of an ordinance without having somebody show you that they're meeting the requirements of the ordinance, other than some kind of application or permit or whatever you want to call it. I don't think you're gonna get a lot of traction on a honor system.
How dare you?
They do have to go to, like the sheriff's department has to be informed that they're gonna be buying metals and copper and stuff. They do have to get a license to do that.
They do.
Uh,
And that's any metal recycler or metal,
Right, and even a citizen has to go to the county to get the permission to sell the copper or whatever the non-ferrous metals. But I think they should be some, proper, licensing done for just safety purposes. I mean, just for instance, if there's somebody does a yard somewhere just kind of out of the way and you get a 911 call at 17B Street and the fire department shows up and it's a scrap yard on fire. So I think licensing would make sure that, even for EMS or fire protection purposes, they'd know what's there, what they're getting into. It'd be just like if a fire is at the BASF plant in Anderson or in Seneca. I mean, when they call, they know what they're approaching and know what they're getting into. And I think licensing and proper information being out there would be the proper way of going and, let them know what they're approaching. And a business license is very inexpensive. I mean, it's just not very intrusive at all in order to run a legitimate business. And I think that would bring some of our commercial junkyard up to the legitimacy, to being there, being an operating business. Because they are a business. I mean, somebody's selling stuff to take money home to feed his family, and or he or she. So sometimes that's a way not to maybe pay taxes or get commercial insurance. We need to make sure of that. Make sure they got the right insurance on the site. Make sure they have a DHEC plan, a soil water runoff plan. So it's more than just the license, Commissioner, it's the all that goes with that.
But if we require one business to get a business license, we have to require every single business in this county to get a business license from this point on. If we say Junkyards has to do it, then we gotta go to Borg Warner. All the little mom and pop places that are in the county, all the little gas stations that's in the county. All these people, then we have to go back and make every single one of them. And I understand it's not a whole lot of money. Normally it's 10, 15, 20 bucks for a license. And it does, if there's a fire, you're going to X, whatever street, oh, that's the Shell station. We know what it is. But we can't require one business to do it and not require every single business throughout the county to do it. I mean, that'd be like telling you, you're on the commission, you gotta pay $30 to be on the commission, but the rest of us don't. I mean, that's the same type of thing. Dave, you had
So I'm trying to figure out,
David.
section 6 alpha, number 5, is that what we're talking about? A permit?
7.
Well, it's on,
Well, we're talking about section 6, replacing A and B with the new revised A and B.
the A and, on this page right here. On the. Go ahead, Alex.
If I were gonna build an RV park, would I need to get a permit?
Yes.
Thank you.
But not a business license.
But a permit to build that park, just like to build a
But not a business license. Go ahead.
I keep hearing people saying business license. And one of the things we asked James to do was look at this and reword it, and he did. And permitting a business license is no longer in there. Commercial junkyard application. Now, one of the things that Pat brought up is right now, we don't know where junkyards are or where they, there's no way of knowing where the junkyards are. I think one time I asked, how many junkyards do we have in this county? Nobody knows. Nobody can put a number on it. If there was an application, that would allow us to know. Now, I mean, innately, this kind of business is dangerous. So there's safety considerations, there's fire considerations. It seems to me that someone like Mr. Root would be in favor of trying to protect our county towards knowing where our risks are. Junkyards are risky. If we know where they are, that's going to be a help to our county, especially if somebody sues us.
Do you have, again, I get the concern over the licensing, and we sure don't want to start something when they're the only business that we require to do that. Are you seeing this A and B replacement? You were saying you felt like that it was very similar. Do you feel like it's a stair step to get to licensing is your concern, or, and the
I
things
just
that I'm
feel-
seeing, I would think would be applicable for, again, somebody doing something at their residence to get a certificate of occupancy, this we're calling a certificate of compliance, to get proper permits and to present a site plan as to what you're doing.
I'm just trying to figure out how many other businesses that we require to do this application. Do we require every single business in the county somebody that starts a business, do we require them to fill out an application like this?
But with the junkyard, it's not only an application for business, it's an application to build. And that's what this is addressing, in my opinion, is the application to build. So yes, if you're taking an existing building out there and starting a business in it, okay, maybe there's not that process. But if the person that went to build that building, there was a process that is like what we're showing in A and B now.
And he had to tell them what they were doing.
As far as the structure, and with the junkyard, that's really what we're talking about, is the safety of the structure. Structure just happens to be spread out over acreage, but it's still a structure that we're trying to manage the safety aspect of, or the stormwater runoff of, or the whatever it might be.
I will be quiet.
Well, I want to try to make sure not to just keep on this, but permitting and licensing procedures, Mr. Chairman, the licensing and the business aspect, the business license of it, I think would be two separate issues. The permitting would be, James was saying, that, you gotta make sure you got a stormwater plan, you gotta make sure you don't have runoff, make sure if you buying an existing building that it meets DHEC code, that the lighting's safe, the door's the right size. All that's permitting stuff that I think should be met anyways. I would think it'd be up to that individual business owner if he wants to pursue a business license or a retail license. I mean, theoretically, you have to have them. You have to have a business license and a retail license if you're selling stuff, because there's excise, there's tax to pay, there's things like that. So, I think this clearly is clear that we are promoting to get a permit and a licensing procedure. It does not say you gotta have a business license, so I don't know that we need to go there. But you do have to follow the other recommendations or the other aspects of opening a business. He's probably right. There's a lot of businesses in this county that's running businesses without a business license or a retail license.
So are you saying, like Mr. Pearson, that this is a stair step leading to a next step that we don't want?
Do we don't want what though?
He's saying we don't want to start charging fees
Right.
to a business that we're not charging fees to other businesses. And you were saying that this, am I correct in that you're saying that this is almost that? Or are you saying that I wasn't really sure which way you were going with that?
I'm just saying here, it says we got a recommendation or on the table here that says that you have to have permitting and licensing procedures. You got to follow that. So we're gonna say.
I just don't see the word licensing, and I just want to make sure that we're not going
Well,
down that
licensing,
road.
I would be thinking that your soil and water impact, do you have the right fence around it? Do you got your trees? Are you far enough off the road?
So
Is
the
your ingress and egress correct? All that stuff. Now, if you want to get a business license, that's your prerogative.
So a lot of that falls under permitting, so it's just a word of, it's just a definition issue.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
One last thing. So we're replacing provision for administration, section 6. We're replacing A and B, leaving C, D, and E as they are. Correct?
Is that in the form of a motion, sir?
That's what I'm asking first before I make the motion. Is that what we're trying to do, is do away with A and B that we have now, replacing them with A and B that is proposed, and leaving C, D, and E as they are in the thing now?
I would say yes, but I do have an amendment that I would like to suggest, is that on this document that we're talking about right now, where you got the capital A and it says permitting procedures, I don't see any reason for that to be there. So I would recommend striking that and then start off with no person shall maintain. I don't think there's any reason, I think that clouds the issue, because you say permitting procedures and then you're asking for an application. So I would say yes, but I would like to see us change that. And if you need a form of motion, I would move to strike permitting procedures.
I'll second that. All right, any discussion? If not, all those in favor? Opposed?
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay. I would make a motion, we accept the changes of A and B to replace A and B that's in the document now and leave everything else the same in section 6.
I'll second that.
So we're adopting the capital A and the capital B? Is that what you're doing?
Well, it'll be A and B.
The one on this page?
It'll be A and B, yeah.
Yes.
A and B.
Lowercase a, B.
The capital B and the little b are, as far as I can tell, not any different. Really just replacing A.
Yeah, just replacing A, but we got A and B, so. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Passes 6-1.
All right, now, we have On page number 4, we have 3 yellow highlighted marks that says date. These are for existing junkyards, if I'm not mistaken, to come up to code with this document, correct?
That is the section on non-conforming. So that's everything that's pre-existing or grandfathered, or you can edit that however y'all would like to.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we change on section 5, part delta, that we change 180 days to 1 year. Reason is I think we should give the existing junkyard owners longer than 6 months to come into compliance.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Unanimous?
All opposed? So we change 180 to 1 year.
I do have one question.
Go ahead, sir.
Item Alpha 4. No operator shall place, store, maintain junk less than 5 feet. So we're okay, never mind, I misread that initially.
No operation shall place contain junk less than 5 feet from the property line. I would like to change that myself. I think it should be further away from the property line if it I've noticed that a couple, since someone has cleared out a area there close to Westminster, their property line is here, and you can see the house from the main road now, which you never could, but they got junk right up on the property line, and it's probably 10 feet away from the house. And I'm pretty sure that guy doesn't appreciate that, but there's nothing he can do. The guy's still on his own property, but it would look a lot nicer on his property if those cars wasn't right there that were 10 feet away from his property line.
Would you like to put that in the form of a motion?
I would like to change. Okay, I'll make a motion to change, where's it at again?
5A4.
Number 4.
5A4.
I've lost it.
5A4.
5A4. I'd like to make a motion to change, the no operation shall take place, store, or maintain less than 5 feet. I would like to have that no less than 10 feet. And the rest of it is, I'd just like to change the 5 to 10 foot.
Second.
Any discussion?
Quick discussion, I just want to make sure that, what is the regulation for new? I don't want the regulation to be harder for existing than it is for new. New looks like it's farther, but I'm just trying to confirm that.
100 feet from all
Yeah,
property
Perfect.
lines.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure we're talking about.
Okay.
It's gonna be under section 4B, 3.
So new will have a tougher requirement, which is correct,
Right.
but we're not making existing tougher than.
No, this would just move it back away a little bit where if you're out in your yard, you don't have junk cars right there at your property line.
Mhm.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Pat.
How far back is the vegetation supposed to be? They don't say that anywhere, does it? Because if you plant a Leland cypress within 20 feet of a property line, in 5 years, it's going to be all over. So does the vegetation have to be at a certain distance?
Not less than 20.
Beyond 150 feet from the road.
It just says 5 feet apart or 7 feet apart, but how far
Here. Vegetation required shall be low, not.
within that setback has to be at least 20 feet? Because they got to have their property line, their 20 feet for the vegetation, and then whatever they're accumulating.
So the 5 changes to 20?
Is that right?
But it's giving options of different options. That's if they picked Leland cypress. Would you let the owner decide what he wants to use based on how much of a setback he feels he needs?
The fence and/or vegetation required herein shall be located not less than 20 feet from a right-of-way, not less than 50 feet from waterway, and as near to the boundary line as practical on all other boundaries. You have to make you have to have something there that says how far your trees or your vegetation has to be.
From the,
Mr. Chair, could we handle that as a separate?
Okay,
Motion.
we're working on number 4. Let's go ahead and do that motion, then we'll do something on number
Well,
3.
I got a question on that.
Go ahead, sir.
So, when somebody plants a tree on their property, as long as the trunk is on their property, doesn't matter about the limbs, correct?
You're right.
Well, if it goes across the property line, then whoever has the second property can cut the limbs off right at the property.
Correct.
But that's all, they can't go cut the tree down because it's on their
See
property.
an issue.
But
You never dealt with it. Okay,
Okay, so we're back to,
But our discussion was,
Make a motion.
them having a junkyard and having stuff 5 feet
Can I
within
make
the
an
property
amendment,
line.
can I make an amendment to your motion?
Well, this has nothing to do with vegetation, this is junk.
He wants to amend your motion.
I want to amend
Your
your
motion.
Did you
motion.
make a motion?
Yes.
10, 5 to 10.
I'd like to change that to 20. Make a motion to change that to 20 from your motion of 10. 20 foot's not far, guys.
if there's no second, then we wouldn't need to talk about it anymore.
ownership, place, and store,
20 feet here to.
then 20
Mr.
feet
Chair, that'd be a lack of a
out
second,
way
wouldn't it?
of a public road,
Have you called for a second?
I'm not calling for a second yet,
50
I'm
feet.
waiting on Mr. Johnson.
When you immediately
Matter of
exit the
fact,
discussion and call
I'll-
for a second.
Huh?
I think point of order is you immediately exit the discussion on the first motion and call for
We've got an amendment to
Second.
the motion to change the 10 to 20. We have a amendment motion, I need a second.
I'll second that, so
We have a second, any discussion?
I do. So with control free, it has a 15-foot setback, correct?
Depends on the
Yep.
size of the property.
Okay.
So if it's more than half an acre and control free, you'd have a 25-foot setback on the front,
Okay.
10 on the rear, and 5 on the sides.
Okay.
All right, we have motion and a second to amend the motion from 10 to 20. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? All right, back to the original motion, change the 5 to 10. All those in favor? Opposed?
Passes 6 to 1.
All right, now, on item number 3, Pat, the fence or vegetation required herein shall be located not less than 20 feet from the right-of-way of a public road, not less than 50 feet from a waterway or near the boundary line as practical or on other boundaries. You want to change that?
Well, as near, and as near the boundary line as practical on all other boundaries. So what is practical? Is that setbacks as Mr. Vassy brought up, or is that gonna be the 10 feet?
What we just voted on had nothing to do with vegetation. That had to do with junk, car parts.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Number 3 deals with strictly your vegetation between your property line and the view of the junk.
But I think our setback should be consistent with whatever our existing regulations are. I'm good with the 10 or 15-foot one. If anybody thinks that, but I just think practical sure does leave a lot of gray area. I think you definitely need a clear,
Well, people are gonna
Description
interpret that as, I can plant my tree as close to the property line as I'm allowed to. as long as my trunk doesn't go across the line. That's how they're gonna interpret it.
Right.
So question about that. Is it saying property line or is it saying setback from right-of-way or setback from setbacks? So in other words, if I'm reading this wrong, but right now I'm at 20 feet from the right-of-way, if the right-of-way is 15 feet off of the edge of the road, then we're actually 25 feet off of the road. 35 feet off the road at 20 feet. On an existing, and then on the side, if it's talking about, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm implying setbacks here, but we're talking about vegetation 35 feet now from the road. Is that a problem? And we're talking about an existing property. So now somebody who has something, maybe they've got a fence up, and now we've told them, hey, you need to push everything back a little bit farther to get your vegetation in, which is now 35 feet from the edge of the road. Am I reading that wrong?
It's not less than, so it can be all the way up to the right of way, but no more than.
Not less than 20 feet from the right-of-way.
Right. So in that, between the edge of the right of way and 20-foot offset, it needs to be in there somewhere.
It needs to be, the fence or vegetation shall be located not less than 20 feet. To me, that's 20 feet from the edge of the right-of-way.
Not less than means at least 20 feet from.
At least
right?
20 feet from the right-of-way.
That
So
would- I
you
think
got
that's pretty
15
clear.
feet off the road,
Yeah.
plus another 20 feet off the road before you plant your tree. I think that for existing stuff, that might be a little bit of an overreach. I wouldn't make it bigger.
Why do we use not less than when we could use at least? Seems like simpler language, but.
We can change it. We can
I
ask
mean,
you to change it. We adopted somebody else's writing.
Yeah, on the
Gotcha.
front, Mike, you'd be 55 feet. But you got 25 foot off the front of your property, you can't do anything, just setback or right of way. So you'd have to be 25 feet plus the 20 foot. With this, on the side, it would be adding 5 foot to it, so it'd be 30 foot.
Except I don't actually see the word setback in here, and that's
Yeah,
kind of my
true.
question too. I see right-of-ways and I see waterways, but I don't see setbacks.
There's no issue with vegetation in a setback.
So it would have to be outside the setback.
No. It can be,
No, it can be
you
within
change
the
it
setback.
either way.
So if it's just a setback that we're talking about on the sides of properties, this has no limiting effect. It's just on the road side of the property or a waterway side of the property. I don't see any reason why we should make it more if it's, again, we're planting a tree 35 feet off of a road. I think that to do anything more would be a hardship on an existing. Now, on new, it's new. We can do whatever seems like the best thing, but I would leave it like it is or not make it greater.
Unless anyone has objection, Mr. Markovich would like to say something.
Thank you. For the record, Tom Markovich, I don't have a dog in this fight, but when you start getting into the specifics, especially when it comes to a fence and vegetation and whether or not they're in the setback, don't forget, a fence is a structure. It is inspected but vegetation is not a structure. So just think about that.
All right, is there any other,
So was there a motion on that, number 3?
Wait a minute.
I don't think so.
Based on what he said, number 3, the fence can be as near the boundary line as practical on all other boundaries. Does that mean we're putting fences in setbacks?
looks like he was saying this doesn't mention setbacks anywhere, it just says right of way. That's technically the front of the property.
But what that means is this section 5 alpha 3 on fences is conflicting with other zoning requirements in our ordinances, which would require a fence be set back a certain amount from a non-road or non-waterway boundary.
Is that right, James?
Read it one more time.
So fences on sideline setbacks, though, you can be right up onto your property line. And we should allow somebody to put a fence on their property line as opposed to,
That's correct.
Yeah.
If I build a farm fence, I can build it a foot off the property line, or I can build it on the property line, and it's our fence.
Hey, I don't wanna make any
Put it
worse for
on
you
the
guys.
property line?
I don't. I'm just asking a question.
yeah, no, I mean, it's,
I don't want the
You
ordinances
have
to
to be able to
conflict.
maintain both sides of your fence. Now, if you wanna climb over it and hang down, you can't trespass to maintain it.
The last one it was.
That's what I always thought. If you put it on the property line, it belongs to whoever owns this property here and this person here. And if they won't allow you on their property, you can't maintain that fence but on one side. That's why everybody recommends you taking a foot or whatever off the property line. That way you can get on both sides of your fence.
And I'm not changing my mind.
But
And I can take it down. And you can.
do we have a motion on the do we have a motion?
we have a motion
out
on the
there?
table.
Okay, just discussion. If we're having discussion, I'd like to bring up a different point if we're through discussing that topic, unless we need to make a motion on it.
Go ahead.
Item, section 5, number B, no existing junkyard may expand without a proper permit. We took out the word permitting procedure, so is it clear about what a proper permit is and how to follow that?
Should we change that word permit to application?
It's in 6A, isn't it?
No, this is in section
Oh, no, no.
5B.
It should be changed to a proper approved application.
Is that your motion?
I'll take it, I don't want to take it from Mike.
I think you came up with good words, so go for it. Make that motion.
Okay, so on section 5B, strike permit, add approved application. That's a good catch.
All right, we have a
Who's
motion.
second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Leaving out the 3.
Anybody have anything else on this particular subject?
Does this document go to council like it's written, or does David Root
Yeah.
reformats this?
James?
If you guys approve this and are ready to send this on, we would send it to Mr. Ruth first for his review, and then on to council directly if he's okay with it. I'll give him the option to send it back to that, or send it on.
But it doesn't automatically come back to us after he's,
You can make that if you'd like.
I'd like to make a motion that with these changes, that we send this to David Root to be formally written and come back to us for final observation before sending it on.
Second?
Any discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Opposed?
We accomplished.
We finished with the junkyard ordinance for the
Can I
time
make
being?
can I just make a comment now? I just want to, for instance, as we stand now, I don't know if you've noticed, there's a salvage yard that's kind of popped up on 123 between Westminster and Seneca behind, I want to be careful what I say, but anyway,
Upstate Fort Worth.
it started out as a very small one, but it has just blew up. I mean, the guy's rocking and doing obviously a great business, but is that just kind of, what can hinder him from just continuing to expand? If he's got 100 acres, as we stand now, can he just keep going? What, Jane, I mean,
Talking about the one on 123?
yeah,
Depending on his, well, with this, if this went into effect, he would have to put up a screen.
well, it wouldn't affect
But-
him now anyway, because this is all about new. But
Now,
I'll just-
there's exist, that's what we
Okay,
just worked on
okay,
existing.
existing,
He's got a year. He's
okay.
got a year to do it, but he'd have to put up a screen, between him and the road. And he's already in an even little side road. And then take care of all his stuff, if he's got any on the property line or right at the property line on the other side. But other than that, if he's got 100 acres, he can just keep going with it. But he would have to meet every item on this if he expands from this point on, if this was
I do want
approved
to
today.
I do want to say for the record, I'm not picking on that person.
No,
Or
no, I
not
mean-
singling that person out, but I've just noticed that their business is really taking
Oh, yeah,
off.
he has
And,
busted loose.
it seemed like something we've left out, and I don't want to just jump back, there's a height. How high can you stack them?
I think state regulates the height, how many cars you can stack on top of each other. I don't know.
Okay, let's don't go back there, I just bring those. I do, please understand, I'm not singling out a single business.
He's just the one we can see, other than the one on, up in Erie, Old Clemson Highway. Okay. We're gonna open discussion for subdivision development standards. Does anyone have anything at this point?
Just before you finish, you'd asked me to put in the next page that has vehicle data for the county in there. I don't know if you wanted to do anything with that before we move on.
Yeah, this is for disposal in the junkyards, this right here, over here. Ms. Spicer brought it up at our last meeting. In Oconee County, we have just electric cars, 110. The hybrids, we have 80. Right, is that, am I reading
That's
that
the
right?
plug-in hybrids is 80, the normal hybrids is 1,000.
What are they gonna do with the batteries when these batteries start going bad or not being charged? I mean, they can't put them in our landfill. Where are they gonna put them? I mean, I've been told that they have to go back to the manufacturer and all this, but I don't know if
Elon
any of
Musk
that's
gonna
true or
buy
not.
them.
But
Send them to the moon.
send them to the moon.
Ask
The
the
next-
question.
On that comment, I would like to move that we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? No second. All right. On that note, the subdivision standards we've asked.
Just a point of order on that motion. We really needed a motion to amend to remove agenda item number 9 if we're gonna.
But it didn't pass. There was no second on it.
Okay.
But on the development standard, we've asked James to look into a urban planner. We have nothing back from that as of yet. Let's table this discussion on the development standards for this meeting, pick it up first of the year.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Galvin.
I would like to move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those